Hello everyone, welcome to my very first video tutorial. I'm going to start out with a simple card today using tissue paper to get this really unique crinkled effect on my card. So we're going to start out with a piece of tissue paper. This is used tissue paper. As you can see, it's already wrinkled. So when you've already used tissue paper, don't throw it out. It works great for cards. And I'm going to start by stamping a flower image on it. I'm using a stamp set from Stampin' Up. It's called Heartfelt Thanks, and it's a two-step stamp. It has the base image, of course, and the outline. And I'm going to be using the Stampin' Up markers to color it because I want two different tones. I don't want it all stamped the same. So I'm starting out with Old Olive to do the stem, and then I'm going to be doing the flower portion with rich raspberry, beautiful colors. You don't have to be really fussy about coloring this. It's not that critical. You want to get most of it, of course, but I'm going to huff on it to re-moisten the ink. Now I want to stamp off a little bit because I want a light image. I don't want a really dark impression. So I'm going to stamp it down there. Okay, and now I'm going to go with the next portion of the stamp, and I'm switching markers. I'm going to be using Always Artichoke and Bravo Burgundy, which coordinate nicely with what I've got, but is slightly darker. Just adds a little bit more interest. I love these two-step stamps. They have a really nice effect when you do them. Again, I will huff on it like I did the first time. And it's not critical for these to be perfectly lined up. Close is good. That's the beauty of these two-step stamps. Well, that lined up pretty good even though I wasn't trying that hard. And just a really nice look. And now I'm going to use Memento ink, Tuxedo Black, for my greeting. I'm taking a verse from a stamp set called Faith, and it's from Our Daily Bread. Stamp that down there. Okay. And now that we have it stamped, I'm going to crinkle it. And that's just fold it up like that, crinkle it up, and then open it up. And I don't want to open it too much. I don't want to smooth out the crinkles that I've just put on there. You can see how it's nice and wrinkly. And now I'm going to stick it to my card base. And I cut this piece of paper 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. It's slightly smaller than my card base, which is the 5 1/2 by 4 1/4. And the glue I'm using is just a regular dollar store or from the card and stationery store glue stick. I like to use the two-way glue pen from Zig when I'm sticking my cards together, but I find for doing this that almost dries a little too quickly, and then I sometimes get little air pockets on my tissue paper. So I prefer to use this, and this is also a little bit more forgiving as you're positioning the tissue paper. If you don't get it right the first time when you're starting out, you could lift it a little bit with that regular stick there. Okay, making sure I'm not putting it on backwards because of course you can see the image from both sides. I want to make sure I read my words, but I'm going to place my words, try to get them centered, and just hold it up. Make sure that it's level, not running off at a slope, and that it's centered from side to side. And once you're happy with where it is, careful. I always start with the verse first because you want to make sure that it's lined up straight and that you could read the words carefully. The rest of your image, even if it's a little crooked or twisted, it's not quite as critical as the words. Of course, you don't want to lose the crinkled effect. And then you just go ahead and pat the rest of the image down. Just love that effect and how it looks. Make sure it's well stuck. Now, you can use a paper trimmer to trim off the extra tissue paper if you want. I find in some cases it's just as easy to use my paper snips. And I'll just get this cut. And I'm going to be sticking this down onto a rich raspberry card base. It coordinates, of course, with the ink that I used for my image. I just love this effect. I've been playing around doing different things with it. I've tried pink tissue paper, and I'm using it not so much to stamp the image on, but to create like a pretty paper background on my card. Now I've got my rich raspberry, so I'm just going to glue this onto it. And as soon as I'm done this, I'm going to show you a few more cards that I've made using the same technique. One of them is my favorite. I got really creative, so I can't wait to show it to you. And all of these cards will be posted on my blog, which is stampability.blogspot.ca, and so you'll be able to see them in more detail. Now, get this stuck down, and you see around the edges there's little pieces of tissue paper. It didn't look like I cut it really well. That's really easy to fix. I just take my scissors after and cut away like, oops, like that. Oh, that one's going to make a liar out of me. It doesn't, it's stuck down. There's some extra glue there, but normally it comes off quite easily. So you just tidy it up like that. So there is my finished card. And I think it turned out okay. Might not have got quite enough glue under there. I'll maybe just stick it down a bit more. But now I'm going to show you some of the other ones that I've made. This one I stamped just an outline image and I colored it in with my Copic markers. And here's another two-step stamp with a different image that I used. Another one colored again with Copic markers, and I added some stickles and different things on there to make them look a little fancier. And here's one with a ribbon. Now this one is my favorite. I was laying awake at night the other night and trying to think of what else could I do, and came up with the idea of doing something that looked like a faux leather so I could create a nice masculine card. And again, I just used regular tissue paper. This was white tissue paper, and I'm going to show you how I created that. I took the tissue paper and I used my Copic markers and I airbrushed the tissue paper. Now, not everybody has Copic markers or an airbrush, so you can use distress inks and create something similar. I didn't have the same colors as my Copic markers. I'm kind of limited on what I have for my distress inks, but I just wanted to show you using a sponge. You can create the same effect using distress inks or whatever inks you have and do it blotchy. But these are the ones, like I said, that I used for my card, and I sprayed them on there and then crinkled my tissue up and stuck it to the card. But I wanted to add that extra, you know, where you really can see or enhance the crease line. So what I did to do that is, once I had the tissue paper glued onto the card base, I trimmed it and so forth, and then I took walnut stained distress ink, Tim Holtz ink, and just a regular piece of sponge, and I dipped it and I kind of highlighted those little creases, and it really made them jump out and gave a nice effect. But I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you'll check out my blog and see the cards that I've been making there. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good day.